Let me show you how to estimate square roots between two numbers. This is a fairly simple method if you already know your perfect squares. If you don't, I highly advise you to go ahead and copy these down and try and memorize them as soon as possible. I've listed all of the perfect squares between 1 and 12. And having this chart makes a couple of questions like these extremely simple. So the first question we're going to look at here says approximately to approximate the value of the square root of 20. Approximate is basically an estimate. So as we look, square root of 20, I'm just looking right now to just see where would 20 go. Between what two of these numbers would 20 go? Okay. Now it is the square root of 20, but I don't believe the square root of 20 goes between 1 and 4. 4 and 9. So I'm going to keep looking. Okay. If I were just count, at this point I go, well, here's 16, here's 25. I believe that 20 goes between these two. And it does, which basically means that the square root of 20 is somewhere between the square root of 16, which is 4, and the square root of 25, which is 5. So if I were to kind of squeeze this in here, square root of 20 is somewhere between these two numbers, which means it is somewhere between the 4 and the 5. And based on my answer choices, it is the only answer that is between 4 and 5 is right here, 4.5. And let me make that dot just a little bit bigger so that we can see it. Okay. But 4.5 would be our answer. Okay. On the question below, we have the square root of 8. So again, I'm going to use the same method and see where the square root of 8, what two numbers that would fall between, and it falls here. The square root of 8 would be between the square root of 4, which is 2, and the square root of 9, which is 3. So I know that my number for the square root of 8 falls somewhere between 2 and 3. And once again, there's only one answer choice between 2 and 3, so that is the answer that I would pick. Now, let's just say, for example, there was a question where our values between 2 and 3 had two different answer choices, one here and one here. And I'm trying to decide. Okay? A very simple method to figure out which one of these two dots it should be between would be to look which one are we closer to. Okay? And this could basically be used by counting, by subtraction, addition, any number of methods. But the square root of 8, if you see here, is basically one number away from the square root of 9. Okay, square root of 8, square root of 9, if you were counting, that would only be one number away. So it's fairly close. Okay, so that's only a distance of 1. Whereas here, from 4 to 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if you're counting, would be 4 numbers away. So in this case, it is much closer to the 3 than the 2. So I'm going to pick a number that is closer to the 3 than the 2, but still falling between the 2 and the 3. So if I were to have two answer choices like this, I'm going to choose the one that is closer to 3, not closer to 2.